What was the news? Because I got some news for Illinois, and then there was some cool news out of our guest today is from Oklahoma. So we're going to be talking a lot about Oklahoma cannabis scene, cannabis laws. So what was the news out of Oklahoma that you saw, Miggy?
Well, there were several things in Oklahoma, but I wanted to brush on that I added to our main Facebook page, the big one. Last week Craig Cecil was freed, and we still have Michael Thompson behind bars. But the other thing in Oklahoma that was going on is that 300 million in sales. Hey, so far.
Make that money, man. They really just knocked it out. And what's the population of Oklahoma? That is going to be a question that we'll ask our guest. So do tune in, because we're going to talk with cannabis lawyer Rachel Klubeck in a little bit. But Oklahoma is just killing it in sales. They're already at 300 million.
Yeah, 5 months.
In 5 months. And then it's just medical. It's not adult use. It's just medical.
But it's also not just Oklahoma.
Yeah. No, that's the exact opposite of the news that we had out of Illinois yesterday. Because today, in theory, in ideal world, where we clearly are no longer in ideal world, like how's the chop in Seattle?
It's breaking up, unfortunately. I wanted to drive by there today, but there was a good chance of me getting tear gas. I decided to come to work.
Tear gas in Seattle. So they're breaking up the chop. And what did CHOP stand for again?
That was Capitol Hill occupation, or occupation protest, or I forget what the other one was, but that's the one I went with.
Yeah.
And the thing about Seattle is we're it's just a bunch of like super college educated homeless people. I mean, people
the real estate values are so expensive.
Well, people who are mad about this chop, the area that surrounds the chop, are $1 million apartments, period. It's just not like the people who are paying.
Well, it's Seattle. Like the price of real estate in Seattle is just, how much has it gone up since 1999 when Amazon showed up?
Oh, fuck, dude. I cry every day when I pay my rent. And I have a low rent. It's ridiculous. Like, just where I work at locally, for me to walk to an apartment that's 3 bedrooms, $2,800.
Oh, wow. I just paid $4,200 a couple days ago, and I paid my mortgage for the next 6 months. And so not only that, I overpaid it by approximately $60 a month. So like my whole mortgage for my 1,400 square foot home in Peoria, Illinois is $635.
I hate you.
It is so cheap. But and that includes real estate taxes, which are actually pretty high here. And hopefully real estate taxes will be coming down, because we're going to get some cannabis revenue eventually. But this came out yesterday. State of Illinois announces that they are suspending the deadline for issuing the adult use, craft grower, infuser, and transporter licenses because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And not only that, we haven't even seen the bid buy for who has been awarded the contract to score the Department of Agriculture applications. Who knows when those are going to be handed out?
Are they worried about protocols for
they should
transportation?
I mean, they should be worried about deadlines for the craft growers, because the deadlines for the craft growers are made in such a way that you have to be in production in 6 months.
Oh.
Well, then think about it. If you're going to try to build a state-of-the-art premium flower indoor farm, and we have winter to deal with, and you announce the winners in September, let's say, 2 months from today, maybe they're in October. I don't know. We're already 2 months. Yeah, we're 2 months late for the dispensaries, so it could be 2 months for the craft growers. How can you be open in 6 months? How are you going to get all your? Because we get froze out in Illinois, and you can't pour concrete in February.
No, you guys are definitely in a bind, because no matter what decision, it is a timeline, at least for the reasonable, like for to have consideration the person who's about to be in business. The other thing is, you just start up when you can.
That's right. You just start up when you can. And then the problem really becomes, hey, these regulations were onerous. I'm glad that you wanted us open in 6 months, but they contemplated the award of the license being in July. So they thought that they'd be able to, you win, get to work. And so right now they would have ordered all the contracts to go out there and start building, as opposed to waiting another 2, who knows, months. And then it's like, what, go out there and build in September? It's going to be something else. No. But did you hear about that dude out of Tennessee?
Oh, shit, yeah.
Yeah, that one was great. Did a Tennessee senator take a state car to buy marijuana at an Illinois dispensary? Isn't that neat?
And that's traceable, right? I mean, they could have just looked at the back plate. I read the whole thread. They didn't call anybody out. They're saying those things are available at like the gift shop. So, but did you see that car?
Yeah, I know. Well, then again, you see in Illinois, like Illinois state senators, they make about 75 large a year, and they may have a car. But then we had the guy from Texas on where they make $7,500 a year. That's it, not 75,000, 7,500, and they only meet every 2 years. And that's why Texas will never have legal weed, because their legislature is never in session and they don't pay their legislature squat. So they aren't going to care about legalizing.
Yeah, but 7,500 is huge in, say, Texas and Tennessee and Oklahoma.
Maybe. We pay ours a lot more here in Illinois.
No,
but I just think it is funny that the importation of cannabis is so strong that it is pulling legislatures from other states in, and I expect them to continue to come in. Tell your legislature, if you're in a state that doesn't have it, tell them to drive to Illinois with their state cars and buy some weed, and then explain to the people, this is good. We need this in our states. And by the way, Illinois has done it correctly. We're going to bring the social equity how we did.
Well, you guys did everything correctly as far as like the regulation, the licensing,
No. There's, oh gosh, I looked into this. And so like the Illinois law actually prohibits the possession of weed still, in the sense that, so like the traditional market is still illegal. So just because you have an ounce of weed, if it's not legally purchased at a dispensary, it's still not legal. And that can make, the grow and give aspect isn't in Illinois. So you really can't have medical patients sharing their supply, which I don't like. But then also they've defined it, the legalization in Illinois, in such a way that it's only applies to purchasers, not persons, but purchasers. And so the purchasers is somebody who lawfully purchased the cannabis. And because of that, they really haven't made the plant totally legal. It's still illegal unless you buy it from a licensed dispensary.
So like technically, like here in Washington, when we started with our legalization, which was medical, and we feared getting pulled over or whatever situation, we would pull our script out. We're like, we're legal. But you're telling me I should carry a receipt in Illinois?
You should carry a receipt in Illinois, or you should only transport your cannabis in after you buy something. You put your weed that you grew into that and then leave the house with it.
So I got to smoke an ounce of weed just to carry an ounce of weed?
Or if you wanted to have a party, like cannabis cake party, right, at your house, cake and tea. And so they're going to be infused, and you're going to be using your magical butter machine to go ahead and make these. And you have a medical card and you give that to your friends, that I guess is illegal. And then the other thing is, imagine smoking a joint, right? Okay. So if you're smoking a joint that you buy at the dispensary, it's a legal joint. You bought it 1 gram. It's way too much for you. It's meant to be shared. You can't pass it to anybody, not just because of COVID, but because the person that has to be possessing it has to be the purchaser. So, the joint is illegal as soon as you pass it.
Yeah. I wonder what semantics do Oklahomans have to face when they do their sharing, and
I have no idea. But Oklahoman stuff, it just seems like it's still medical, but it seems like it's way more wide open than oops, I shared the wrong thing on that one. But no. All right. My bad. That's one of the problems with, I tried to copy and paste my the suspension link. Oh, no, I'm showing it. Yeah. I tried to copy and paste the suspension link, but my keyboard goes to sleep. And so then I didn't get it. So then by the time I tried to paste it, it woke up, and then I pasted like a block to something I was writing earlier.
I hate copy.
Just the right amount of nonsense on cannabis legalization news. Yeah.
Well, also in Oklahoma, they have, which one thing I wanted to talk about too, is they let the vote out for out-of-state residents.
Oh, good.
To get a medical card and allow delivery. That's what I have a question on.
Oh, delivery. Rachel. Now, can I take, this is a question that I shouldn't ask myself and speculate and stuff. I should ask the guest. Yeah. Did you see the very interesting article that you shared about the IT pros indicted for, this was really interesting. IT pros indicted after arranging credit card payments for weed startup. And so you'll see this a lot of times with the credit card payment processors. And it was interesting in the sense that these were offshore people. And so that with credit card processing, you usually need to you need to have a code. And so the way that they were doing this is they were just falsifying those codes and running the transactions. And so what was it? Issuing bank, merchant banks, what would they call them? The actual 4-digit codes. Here's where they talk about the 4-digit codes. And they were like saying it was like soda or some other stuff. They weren't saying that it was going to be actual cannabis things that were done. And so because of that, they were lying, and they've been charged with bank fraud. And then their defense was like a fraud with no victims. I'm like, they don't understand the law. It doesn't really matter that there's no victims. It matters what the statute says. And then I scrolled down to this, and it was Julie Hill, a legal scholar with the University of Alabama, and I'm like, "Yep, she's right. That's what I was thinking." And so people didn't understand the laws. They were living outside the boundaries of the United States, so they created this. They were lying. People were doing transactions in business, and then when they came to L.A., they got popped. Right?
Yeah. Well, he's flying through. Yeah, he's flying through.
Flying through. German IT consultant in L.A. God.
But the whole no victim, no crime. I mean, that's a thing.
It's not a thing.
I mean, it should be a thing.
Okay, I understand that you think that it should be a thing, but that there's a way that like these statutes are written, and these are these criminal elements, and then it was a knowledgeable, willful, intentional misrepresentation of this to a financially federally insured financial institution. Sometimes when I get worked up about all the bank law, remember when I was a bank lawyer? I still am. My law firm's name is Collateral Base, after all.
It's your wheelhouse, but it bothers me that we have this precedent of criminality. Whereas, like here, there's a couple that was busted in Oregon, or not Oregon, Colorado, a legal state, recreational legal. Our biggest argument here in defense of Washington, and why we don't have it, is home grow. Is like you're not going to have large scale home grows. I mean, clearly these guys weren't mom and pop small home grow, but my point is that we can stop large productions. You'll find them. They're not hidden. Home grow should be acceptable. It should be like the garden in my backyard, tomatoes and cucumber. I mean, growing's hard, period.
Growing is tough.
These lines that we set for criminality are just ridiculous. I just kind of how we talked about the semantics of weight. We're going to stop at an ounce for criminality.
Yeah, the semantics of weight are something, but then it is important that home grow is allowed, and home grow is one of those exceptions that they very often exploit. But you should still allow it for the safe access to the medicine. And then
not just genetics.
And then the genetics are very, very important, but then also the safe access to the medicine, because right now the Illinois statute says that it's legal for the people that have the cultivation licenses to be able to sell seeds to dispensaries, but yet there aren't any.
So did you hear that June you guys had a really good month in Illinois?
Yeah, whenever I want to get like the general news, you know what you hit up? You go to the marijuana moment. And marijuana moment, I mean, this Tom Angel, we're going to have to try to get him on the show one day and talk to him, because he is like, man.
He's a machine.
Prolific. He's a machine. Right. Maybe he has maybe his point is every day he'll do 2 stories, because come on, think about it. It's easy to find 2 stories about cannabis if you look. And then there's the Illinois record breaking. And then there's articles like this, that this is kind of like recycling the news. And then he has somebody else that writes for him. Pro tip: if you are trying to start a marijuana publication or any publication, have somebody write for you. It really helps double the content.
Well, have a team, period. I mean, look at us. I try to do the team thing as far as the website went. Writing. I'm still writing, just not as prolific. But you definitely need a team. I mean, just like with us, with the Facebook page and then the show. We got our base.
Yeah. And sometimes we break the stories a little too early. Remember that one time? It was one of your first videos. It was exceedingly popular. And you can't find it anymore because it's not on YouTube. It got yanked. It was that one that you said cannabis cures coronavirus. And they yanked it like months ago after it kind of blew up. And then what happens now? Like you get this is from Forbes, basically and you were actually joking about it. So you shouldn't have been joking. Yeah. And maybe you should have cited the source. I don't know. But either way, we have to be really careful about what we put on the channels, because sometimes, remember, they yanked that video of yours that you did about this.
And I thought I was cautious enough to say it didn't cure. I just said it helped my, what do you call it? Your autoimmune system. Right. I shared that Israel MD's research, just saying this could be a possibility. And here we are 4 months later, everybody's agreeing with it, and we got taken down.
Well, we got taken down quick. I mean, we were taken down, I think, in April or March, when the stay-at-home orders were still there. But, thank you, YouTube. Thank you. We like being on your platform. It is the best.
All praise be.
All praise be to YouTube. But that's one of the hard things when you're trying to deal with the man, but you're also trying to change the man's laws. It's difficult.
It's a tough conversation. It's pushing a rock uphill, right?
That's the myth of Sisyphus.
You know who else had a good month so far?
Who's that?
That would be Oregon. 100 million.
Gosh, 100 million in Oregon. And Oregon is not that populous of a state. I want to say it's only like, 4 to 5 million people?
That's a small state, but yeah.
That's a small state, but still $100 million into cannabis sales. And then that could be helping these deficits that are out there. This is one of the reports that is interesting. Can legalizing recreational marijuana in Pennsylvania help deal with their $3.2 billion deficit? The lieutenant governor, John Fetterman, is saying the time is now. And then, of course, there's a Republican senator always that's trying to block that. And then there is one as well in Pennsylvania. It's the state senator Stefano. And he chairs the Law and Justice Committee that oversees the state's liquor, police, and marijuana. And you know what he wants? You know what he wants?
No homegrown. No legalization.
What do these people always want when they're standing in the way of legalization?
Oh, studies.
More research.
God
we need
damn it.
more research. Oh,
That
my
was your
God.
old plan.
Yeah.
Don't
did
believe
you
the
see
Bible.
right. Don't forget the Bible. I did get a PhD from Bible Arts. No, not Bible Arts. From Bible Studies in Liberty College. That might be a thing. You might be able to get that. Or is it Liberty University? What was the one owned by the preacher?
Oh, Billy Graham's thing. I don't know, but it's just the worst argument still for why to hold back progress.
Well, it's the next argument as well. It's the same. There's that one. We need more studies. And then you know what else you need? How do we know if you're high and driving?
Oh, fuck. Yeah.
We have no test to tell if you are high and driving.
You gotta be bad.
That's the next one. It's like, how can we still arrest you after we make this legal?
Right?
Yeah.
No, that's exactly it. I mean, well, here and then we'll ask our guests about this. But in Pennsylvania, I just shared that one state made 100 million.
Right.
And then at the same time, there was a traffic stop of 100 pounds in York County in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
100 pounds. And we got criminals. I mean, they're not criminals. They're probably just working in the medical scene.
Well, it just means that the traditional market, as they call it on the West Coast, is still there. So if you would like to disrupt the traditional market and maybe insert some justice into undoing what happens with the drug war, that can be kind of like the Illinois model. And it was very interesting. This was this week as well. State Senator from Pennsylvania, Dalen Leach, has a press release and an article. He spoke on marijuana prohibition being racist. And we often talk about that, like with the book. That's why I named it Satan Smoke. And if you guys want one of those, please do email me at tom@collateralbase.com. But I've been very impressed with Dalen Leach's website. And so if you want to learn more about the bill in Pennsylvania, you've got it. I mean, but then also go to the senatorleach.com/SB350. And I think we really should start talking to him. Well, there was some federal news, and that has to do with Congress being back. So Congress is back. They took a small summer vacation. How's your summer vacation going, dude?
Went to the river yesterday, dude.
You went to the river?
Yeah, I mean, like we try to avoid everybody. It was still COVID fest. So
COVID fest. So what are they going to do for Hemp Fest this year? It's about 3 weeks, or it would be away, right?
Oh man, I'm more worried about the schools, but the whole thing is we're shut down, dude. Like the world needs to understand that this shit's real.
This shit's real, and it's federal cannabis legalization news week. So get excited, everybody. My bad on that one. And so that one, and let me hit screen share because it is fresh. It's only an hour old.
Ooh. So
Congress should pass marijuana legalization bill amid coronavirus. How do you pronounce that word? Coalition of Justin Group urges. And hey, don't forget to sign up to the Marijuana Moment if you haven't yet, and you'll get that. But this is the big news that came out of it, because some of those coronavirus relief packages actually included the Safe Banking Act, but then it went over to the Senate and it hit the Senate.
Is the Safe Banking Act the one that was being blocked with the crapo?
Yeah, that was the one being blocked. Technically, he likes to say it's pronounced Crapo, but he's wrong. He's pronouncing his name wrong. It's
Technically,
Crapo.
I believe he's on the wrong side. Yeah.
I think, you know, if you consider marijuana to be limited to 2% THC or more, that's Crapo. It's clearly a Crapo. Yeah.
Well, it just adds to the misunderstanding of the plant overall. I mean, period. You know, just
Yep, he's contributing to the lie. He's contributing to the lie.
hey, did you know freaking the DEA are being used in some of these protests we got going around? Like,
what's up with these protests? You guys, you're in Seattle, not Portland, but then you just have roving federal unmarked people just harassing people.
Well, and, you know, the fact that this is just making news that way. I mean, now see, Portland's really good. You know, Portland originally was going to be a white city. Like, it was made by the KKK.
Seriously,
like the Northwest has a deep rooted, like for living in Hippieville, it's a deep rooted of hate and racism out here, and that's why it's so important that these kids are out there fighting their system, doing what they're doing down there, at least, you know. And here, in Seattle, kind of same thing, but they've negotiated, they've met in the middle. We're trying to make amends and stuff, but yeah. So back to being in the news, my daughter was telling me that they have friends in Cali. This happened during the George Floyd protest originally. They were picked up and dropped off 3 counties away.
Picked up and dropped off 3 counties away. We need to change that. And you know what we're going to do? Collectively, we will be known as the Marijuana Justice Coalition, the MJC. So evidently there is this new Marijuana Justice Coalition that we have to try to get on the show. And they are trying to reform these cannabis laws. And so, for example, there's the MORE Act. You can search for that. The Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act. It's kind of similar to what they did in Illinois.
Nice.
And so that one's by Judiciary Chairman Jared Nadler. We should try to get Nadler on the show. But not only that, then out of Oklahoma marijuana company fined for unlawful pesticide use. A $541,000 fine laid down by Oklahoma's state cannabis regulatory agency against a company. It looks like Moon Mix LLC. So what do you think about those open markets?
You know, it's still, you're going to have cutting corners no matter what, illegal industry or whatever. Like, again, lab regulation is plant regulation in my world.
And I think that was an example of it right there. They saw it came back flagged, and they got stuck. $541,000. Let's see that line item on the budget. And
here's the thing, though. If they were to put the results of the plant, like, yes, it was used with pesticide, people buy cigarettes. People are going to buy shitty weed. No, for real.
People do buy cigarettes, like millions of people. And evidently before, they couldn't be wrong. But that was like the 50s. And now cigarette smokers can be wrong.
They willingly call them cancer sticks.
They literally are cancer sticks. That's literally what but then it would in theory kind of be like the 21st century of that. And so that one doesn't give you cancer, but it is still in a stick format. You see, a joint is filled not with tobacco or all those treatments that they put onto the nicotine cigarette. Think about the science experiment that is the nicotine cigarette.
You know what? Here's the deal. One gives you cancer. The other one gives you prison. What the fuck?
Yeah, and the one that gives you prison actually seems like it is better for you, like objectively. It is literally giving you an antioxidant and neuroprotectorant into your lungs. How does this work out? Well, so far, Dr. Grinspoon died, but he was 92. So I guess fine. I guess that's how it works out, is fine. Yeah.
But you know, Greenspoon actually set off to find the bad stuff about cannabis when he went to do his research.
That was the only way he would have gotten that funding for the research. It was the research getting funded to find the harm. I'm going to go experiment on the harms of 40 years later. Still haven't found it, but this stuff is awesome.
Hey, I'd like to give a shout out to another badass of the day. This gentleman here in Indiana. Apparently he was rolling a blunt on the side of the road. If you read the story, the cop told him not to roll the blunt. Like the cop grabbed the blunt and he broke the cop's jaw. I mean, I'm not promoting violence. I'm just saying he's my badass.
That is out of the South Bend Tribune. Man accused of breaking jaw of Elkhart cop who tried to seize marijuana blunt. Well, you know, I don't swipe a blunt from a man's mouth and think it's going to go well. You know, I'm not sure why that guy did.
That's the true drug abuse. I'm just saying, my friend.
Oh,
taking a man's blunt.
Taking a man's blunt.
You don't do that.
So have you heard about High Times or not? Well, I'm not sure. I guess it is High Times. It's High Times is IP. So the Cannabis Cup is coming to Illinois, and it's going to be an interesting styled Cannabis Cup. Have you heard about that one, the Cannabis Cup in Illinois?
I think didn't they have one out here recently where they kind of did the same way, or at least not out here, maybe in Oklahoma. It's all virtual.
It's kind of all virtual and it's crowdsourced. So like you can sign up to be a judge for the Cannabis Cup for High Times, and they're going to say, I guess, smoke these particular flowers, which is going to be pretty difficult because amount of flower out there could make trying to test the same cannabis hard. So like, it might be impossible to get one strain all over the state where the judges are. So they aren't going to have like a full.
Well, and honestly, dude, though, I mean, the High Times hasn't had to wait when it comes to branding and credibility when it comes to the plant. It's like everybody knows the High Times cups are kind of already like bought for, paid for. If you're going to have limited growers, limited participants, this is, and that's how they made their revenue for so long. Now they're just kind of clinging, I think, in my opinion.
Well, they're also doing the capital raise methodology of the cannabis industry, wherein if you cannot make enough money, just start raising capital.
Yeah. Here.
Would anybody like to buy some stock?
Go to my GoFundMe.
We have plenty of stock. You could buy some stock, and so I'm sure if you wanted to get a High Times share of stock, probably a little easier, but you can become a High Times judge in Illinois for that.
Oh yeah, no, the stock's not that hard, dude. They're still doing that panhandling stuff online, but it's something happier news. Rhode Island got their first marijuana lab.
Oh, good. First marijuana testing lab in Rhode Island to certify marijuana potency. Let's see the 27%. What's the THC? Did they have like a THC percentage in there?
They don't. It just says 11 states, and it just goes into just
reporting. What are your
that.
THC percentages in Washington? Because I think ours in Illinois, I think they're cooking their books.
Fuck, dude. Then that's always been. I think we're stabilizing now, where I can have a high expectancy of like looking at a good high potency of being about 24%, 25%, and expecting it to be about that.
Yeah, we have some people that are advertising like 34, 36. So like some strains were saying they were coming in at that. So
yeah, no,
30 plus.
They're cooking their numbers. And again, you guys are going to be going through aches and pains, and we still went through it here. Was about 3 years ago. One of the bigger labs that was doing testing all the way to medical days, 360 Analytics. They had their A2LA accreditation for years, even before we became medical or recreational. Then probably about 4 years ago, the accrediting body came in to inspect their labs and said, hey, here's a shit ton of list of things that you messed up on. One of them was not having an SOP. And they're like, how can you ding us on not having an SOP when you've been through our lab 8 years in a row? Like, right. It's just a money grab. A lot of times these audits, you got to watch who's inspecting the inspectors, man.
You got to watch who your regulator is.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they like to regulate. Yeah. Those regulations can result in the fines and the penalties.
Well, and then let's talk about how painful regulation can be when the FDA just released new guidelines on cannabis, but yet it's going to wait for a White House review.
That White House review is going to be great, I'm sure. But, the USDA guidelines for the next year's crop season are going to be more stringent. So Illinois still has not complied yet. So that we're going to be abiding by some new regulations next year, I'm pretty sure, because of the USDA stuff that they're doing with the THC limits. And so hopefully we can get THC up to 1%. That would be fantastic and kind of reflect the actual plant genetics as opposed to changing hemp genetics fairly quickly. Speaking of, just got this today, hemp genetics, an overview of a rapidly evolving field. Now, it goes on to explain why hemp genetics are so important. One of the reasons of why hemp genetics would be so important is because of these types of USDA regulations. Because what's super hot in hemp? Super hot in hemp is not CBD right now. It's these other lesser terpenoids, delta-8 THC. CBG is hot right now. Huge. And so those types of flowers and oils that are commanding the better price, but then CBD is the demand is there. It's just that with the regulations changing next year, the supply might get constrained into 2022 if suddenly everything's CBG. You can't get your CBD anymore because all those plants are now off the table because they were a 20-to-1 ratio. Yeah. And so your total THC levels were about 1%, which is where you need to call your congressman and tell them, hey, we need to amend the 2018 Farm Bill or the next Farm Bill. Let's define hemp not as 0.3, but 1%, because we define it at 1%. Nobody gets high, and we have a steady supply of CBD.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even, I mean, there still should be like, even the 1%, there should be a greater cutoff, I think, just for the differential for the police and for everybody.
I understand that, but I'm just saying for the stable genetics that were there for the hemp that got us to here, for like the Charlotte's Web style of genetics and stuff, it was about a 20-to-1 ratio and the THC levels. You could keep it at at 0.34 Delta 9 alone, but not for total, because all these things could be grown very, very well, because, Delta 9 really doesn't grow on the plant. What is it? It's the THCA, right? And so that THCA might be like 0.5, and then the total might be like, 0.7, 0.8, but the delta would always be 0.3 or less. What's new in the news is a couple of days ago, I actually became a father. So like I'm wearing
Dopest dad.
World's dopest dad. And I actually wore that in the hospital. I got a few side eyes, but hey, the baby's healthy and I'm totally thrilled. But there's also more good news. I mean, there was something that we're going to have to talk about, and then we should make a little clip about, because in the federal areas, this sucker was big, and this has been an evolving story for years, but it's back. And the issue again is the defunding the actual federal government from being able to enforce their cannabis laws. And so if this passes, there basically won't be any federal cannabis laws anymore. Wouldn't that be cool?
No, it'd be nice to reallocate so many of those expenses.
Well, yeah, but then I guess like this is where, because it's cannabis, so everything's like kind of cuckoo. And the aspect of this is that there would still be laws. There would just be no money to enforce those laws. Which is weird.
Wasn't that what the medical for Blumenauer? That's what he did in the beginning, right?
Right. This is the evolution of the McClintock-Blumenauer amendment that I started reporting on like 5-6 years ago now. And that was what really allowed medical cannabis to expand, is because there was a prohibition against enforcement by the Department of Justice for the cannabis laws at the federal level in states that had valid medical programs that couldn't interfere. And now that's been updated. And it's a huge, broad coalition. And so let's dive into that. There we are. Yep. And so now what they've done is they've expanded it. And the way they expanded it was just to make sure that it's all state marijuana laws, not all state medical marijuana laws. But before we get too optimistic on this, that effectively if a state says whatever they want, like if it's decriminalized or if it's legalized, or if it's a grow and give, for example, one of the sponsors now, because now it's no longer the McClintock-Blumenauer amendment, because there's still McClintock. Who was it before? It was Robacher-Farr. So it was Robacher-Farr amendment, and then Robacher and Farr, I think, are both out of Congress now. And now and then it was the Robacher-Blumenauer amendment, and then Robacher passed away. And now, I mean, again, it's cannabis legalization is a lot like Moses. You just never reached the promised land. And so, right.
The problem is Kevin still receives a bad rep. I mean, the freaking Democrats just took it off their platform.
Oh my God!
Why would they do that? Yeah, marijuana moment. I mean, why would they take that off as one of their main points? You think the left or the hippies or where the fuck you call them,
right? And those are the ones that it seems like are kind of like advocating for it, because now it's let's go down the Democrats. Democrat Earl Blumenauer, Oregon, Republican Tom McClintock, but he's a California Republican. And then Eleanor Holmes Norton, a Democrat from D.C. So I was like, wait, are they even allowed to vote? I thought it was taxation without representation. And that's kind of true. But then, there's some information about Eleanor Holmes Norton. She's an American politician serving as a non-voting delegate to the United States House of Representatives from the District of Columbia. She's 83 years young. Isn't that, pretty amazing that they're going to have that aspect of it, but means nothing. And so now they call it the Blumenauer, McClintock, Norton Lee amendment. And so it's in the House, but what happened when it went to the Senate last budget? Didn't make it. So they do this the same way all the time. They put it into the budget because you need one of those.
Oh, gotcha.
And then they kind of lean on these other states to say, well, you need the federal government to be open. So, and we don't have enough money. So why are we going to be spending Department of Justice appropriations, they call it, for money on enforcing these laws, where these states, they kind of said, no, we want it legal or we want it decriminalized. Why are we going to interfere with that? And
seriously though, why? I mean, it just makes common sense. But
you'd think that, but then you'd have to look at this one. Mitch McConnell says putting marijuana banking in coronavirus. Can you help me out with that one there, Miggy?
Coronavirus?
Yes, thank you. Coronavirus.
Relief
Okay.
bill is non-germane.
Is non-germane. That's right. I can no longer pronounce the word coronavirus. I've seen it too many dang times. And so what happened was, this was out in the House, and the House has this HEROES Act. And so right now, as we approach August 1st, there was this HEROES Act in Congress that they actually passed for approximately $3 trillion, and it included the Safe Banking Act. So it's the twice. And now the Safe Banking Act has been passed by Congress twice, but because bicameral, it goes to the Senate, and then it gets shot down by the Senate Republicans, which is strange. Then the Democrats say, okay, we're not going to put this on the ballot, which I know that we have like 2 octogenarians in waiting, like running against each other. Maybe that's it. But
well, while we hold our breath for legalization, I do have some other good news for activism.
What's that?
So our friends, make this big. I always make it so small.
That's a Facebook post. That's one of the issues, but it's Carrie Cannon.
Too. Yeah. And oh shit, wrong one. I'm making
Carrie Cannon is active in the freelance glore activism, and then just general cannabis activism. And is she out of Seattle?
Yeah, north of Seattle, up in Everett. But the thing is, you remember our guest Peggy or Glenn that were on, and they were on trial for like a year.
Yeah,
I mean, they just settled, and they're not doing it in court.
Oh wow!
So, and the thing is, this wouldn't have happened. Like the attorney actually reached out to Carrie and said, "Look, I actually think that your activism helped. Like lawyers can only do so much, and a lot of times when it comes to these criminal cases, people are afraid to speak up or even taunt the courts. But it helps. And so along those lines, my other friend Amber Taylor, who's helping out with the Sean Worsley event coming up on the 31st, it's a rally, mind you. It's not a protest. It's not a march. It's a rally in support of Sean Worsley and his freedom. She's getting hate phone calls from Alabama representatives.
Are they saying like, don't you know it's the devil's lettuce and it's gonna kill your babies?
Well, the biggest thing is the whole because it's the systematic racism she brings up and Black Lives Matters and whatnot. And they're like, why are you bringing this to our state? Why are you bringing this threatening movement? Which is not.
You mean like the Black Lives Matter is a threatening movement?
Yeah. They harassed her and called her. And that I think too, like personally, an attribution to my activism is I pissed off the right people. That's it. What is it? John Lewis says, it's a good kind of trouble.
Oh yeah, good problems, good trouble.
Yeah, I just figure, I got the right people mad at me. It's all good.
I tell you, one of the nice things, and also in cannabis legalization news that I can mention, is I pretty much now moved into my house as being my full-time office, and so that means that I can actually not just have celebratory joints while I'm at work, but also we have home grow.
Oh,
so like, well, let me see if I can get this thing to focus. Now you can never get it to focus when you want to. There it goes. So that's some blackberry diesel home grow. Good daytime medicine. And so, that was one of the problems with working in an office is they'd be like, hey, you're not allowed to smoke that in here. I'd be like, I got a lot of hard work to do here, buddy. A lot of legal theories that take a lot of mind bending and you have to do while trying to keep up with everything else. This helps.
Again, it's people, it's the stigma, right? Where if you smoke a joint, you're not going to be able to function.
Yeah. So it's a guy who doesn't know how to smoke joints.
Or we're just fighting all this.
Yeah, let's pitch the books. That's right. Now, if you guys would like to get a copy of the book that helped Miggy and I meet each other, it's either in Satan Smoke, and that uses the Fourth Amendment, or it's in the case of US v. Yerbas, which uses the Fifth and other due process aspects. You can email me at tom@collateralbase.com, and then we can send you one of those.
So what else? New Mexico's making some money.
Good. What's going on in New Mexico?
Yeah. See, hey, Lauren, can you add me?
On
my screen, I got a.
Well, let me just. Okay,
there we go.
Yep. There we are.
It's all good. Whatever. Mexico medical marijuana is booming during the pandemic. Period. I mean,
yeah.
Oh, and another on a note of shit show type shit. The government. Check this one out.
All right.
So Congress approves CBD for military members.
Yeah.
But the Navy says, you know what? You can't have CBD shampoo. Like, what the fuck? This is why we can't do nice things.
Malfunction. Yeah, seriously. But then again, one of the things is control and obedience and following orders. And so, like, if you've been insubordinate by smoking the marijuanas, you probably are going to be insubordinate to your CO, is that commanding officer? But I don't necessarily know if that's accurate. It does sound like one of those old wives' tale about marijuana, which they basically are all old wives' tale about marijuana. The more you actually learn about the plant, the more you're like, lies, just all lies.
That was the thing, right? They're like, oh, you're going to smoke weed and all of a sudden be pacifist and not want to fight. But let's remember Vietnam. That's where these guys came across the first time.
Yeah, that's right. But let's do a little bit of bad news before we round out the news summary and talk about the great state of Nevada. Illinois has announced additional delays. And then we were all waiting with bated breath regarding the award of the bid for who will judge the craft growing and the Department of Agricultural licenses in Illinois. That did not come. Instead, it looks like they reached a sweetheart deal. And so now the KPMG application grading that they won originally for the $2.5 million is now up to $6.7 million and also includes all grading. So we don't know when they are going to start announcing things on this. This was something that Toy Hutchinson, hopefully we can get her on the show here shortly. She reported that, almost 6 weeks ago now, that we should have had action in mid-July regarding the dispensaries and then in August regarding the other license types. Now it doesn't necessarily appear if that's going to happen. Here we are, July 29th. It's no longer mid-July. And so it may be a while before all the work and the chaos all kicks back up again here in Illinois.